Welcome to Two Talk Special Legislative Session Show. We extended invitations to all of the state representatives and senators that represent District 2. However, unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, Representative Stacey Evans and Representative Rich Golick were not able to join us today, but have said that they would love to come and join the show at the end of the session and give us a recap. Today at the table with me are Representative Sharon Cooper and Representative Matt Dollar, both of whom represent East Cobb. Representative Cooper, serving 18 years in the House of Representatives, 5 years as the Republican caucus chair. She is currently the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee and a member of 3 other committees, Judiciary, Non-Civil, Regulated Industries, and the Rules Committee. Locally, Representative Cooper is credited with being the major catalyst behind the formation of the Cobb County Police Department's Domestic Violence Unit. Representative Dollar, serving for 12 years, is chair of the Interstate Cooperation Committee and member of the Appropriations, Reapportionment, Insurance, and Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Committees. I want to welcome both of you and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Bob.
Now, 2015, as a lot of folks may not know, is the first year of a 2-year session where any bill that was not passed in 2014 would have to be reintroduced. Now, my understanding is that both of you got most of the bills, if not all the bills passed, that you wanted to get passed in 2014. Now, I understand, Matt, that you have some 1 or 2 bills that you might bring back.
I have one. It's a small measure. It's dealing with a really important issue of condo associations. That it made its way through. The process is very cumbersome and involved, and it's that way by design. But we spent a lot of time on it, and then it got down to the 11th hour, and just as happens with a lot of bills, it just ran out of time.
Right, because there's like the crossover date, and if it doesn't cross over,
there wasn't any major objection to it. It was it had been well vetted, and it just ran out of time at the end. So we'll be bringing it back this year.
Okay. Now, each of you, what bills or what areas would you like to kind of introduce this session to try to get passed?
Well, as chairman of health, I try not on my own to introduce a lot of bills. Health is one of the busiest committees in the House, and there's no end to the bills that come to my committee brought by other representatives. And so unless it's usually I get the controversial bills. Nobody wants to carry a bill about HIV or syphilis, and so when we have those, I end up carrying them. But I do want to talk about, I got the bills that came through last year. I feel like we passed the important ones, but I do want to remind your listeners about the 911 amnesty bill. We had young people deserting other young people that were in severe medical distress, near dying, because they'd been doing drugs or excessive alcohol.
Now, you're talking about the person that could have called and helped the person in need.
Well,
okay.
All of them they would talk about it.
Okay.
That fact that if they got caught, then they wouldn't be able to get in law school, or they wouldn't get to the college they wanted. So they were just abandoning the person, and we had several deaths. So we passed a bill called 911 amnesty, and it says if one person will remain with the person that's in medical distress, call 911 and stay with that person until they get there, then they will not be prosecuted. Now, of course, we put safeguards. It doesn't, that doesn't cover pushers or a bartender that has been pouring alcohol down young people's throat. But for parents, I hope they'll talk to their young people about it. We also gave the police, the first responders, and other first responders the right to carry Narcan, which reverses opiate overdoses.
Okay.
And just a couple of months ago, we had already had 14 deaths.
So in case if the police get there before the rescue personnel, that they could actually hopefully save the person's life.
Right, and of course more and more police departments across the state, they have to decide to do this on their own and find a way to pay for it. But we've already had, a couple months ago, there were 14 lives already saved from the use of Narcan. So I just wanted people to reiterate, and so we can get the word out there. Unfortunately, the legislature, once we pass these bills, we don't have a budget for advertising them or getting the word out. We have to rely on the associations they affect. Like if you pass one on condos, the condo association would have to get the word out, or the police departments would have to get the word out.
Well, one of the things that, and I know the viewers know about this because we've talked about it on other shows, the county, at least in Cobb County anyway, each one of the commissioners has a newsletter that goes out once a week, and the county has a newsletter that goes out once a week. So there's lots of different ways, and and TV shows and things like that. Now, Matt, what about you? What should you be looking to do?
I won't have any bills that specifically affect Cobb County. I'll be working rather heavily on it'll be my first go at a agriculture bill, actually, which really is kind of new territory for
We have
myself.
a disagreement on this bill.
Okay, now let's not get into a debate here.
Yeah.
We'll save that for the House floor.
But a lot of the things that I think people are going to be reading about, mostly with this session, will be transportation and, well, the medical marijuana bill that Sharon's been more involved with than I have been. But transportation is the biggest issue, but, you know, the other will get a lot of press
Right,
as
now,
well.
of course, the biggest thing that's been in the news about transportation is, of course, that the study report that came out saying that, you know, the state needed, I think it was, what, $1.5 billion?
Billion to 1.5 billion.
Right, just to kind of get caught up.
Just to maintain what we have.
Right, and there were a lot of different things in there, suggestions, you know, toll roads and raising the gas tax and all that. And so I know that you and the Senate and the governor will all be having a lot of discussions on that.
The leadership in the House and the Senate have been working with the governor on what the proposals are going to be. It's my understanding that we're going to have 3 bills that originate in the House. They should be. I talked to the chairman this week, and they will be dropped next week.
Okay.
I don't have. We all we all read the same report, and we know what the options are.
Sure. Parameters.
What that cocktail looks like, and how they combine the different options into those 3 proposals. We don't know that yet.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question about one of them, because one of the big proposals that was in there was raising the gas tax because the price of gasoline is down. Mm-hmm. So now, what happens if the price of gasoline goes back up and you raise that tax?
Well,
now, do you lower that tax, or do you add that on, and then, you know, the citizens have to kind of go with both?
We raise it, and then it's raised, and then if it gets too high, then we reduce it like we've done in the past during emergency situations.
Right.
I don't know. That might be part of the puzzle in one or more of the proposals. I think more likely what you're going to see is some kind of a comprehensive approach where in the past, because the gas tax was set decades ago, and in the past it was a very good indicator of it was akin to a user fee.
Right.
The more gas you use, the more you run the roads. That situation has changed with cars getting much better gas mileage, and in some cases, no gas mileage.
Because there was some discussion. I mean, I know I've seen some discussion about possibly, you know, kind of tying into miles driven or things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of proposals out there, and it's always the devil in the details. Often people want us to react on a bill that's been introduced, and like Matt said, it's a very complicated procedure to get a bill through the legislature, and you know, it goes through the House through subcommittee, committee, then the Rules Committee, and then if it gets to the floor.
Right, and a lot of bills die at the Rules Committee, don't they?
Right, and then if it passes the House.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, we're a hard committee. And then if it passes in the House, it goes over to the Senate, starts that process all over again. And it's a good thing.
And if they make a change, then it comes back to you all, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so it's very difficult to get a bill passed, and there are many places along the road where the major changes can be made. So if the public can understand, it's very hard for say just where you stand on the bill. And what I usually tell people, I got to see the final version I'm going to get to vote on.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you read about it before you vote on it, instead of voting on it and then read about it.
I'm sorry, Washington, I think, has given us a bad name.
Well, let's talk about the other bill, or the other topic that's been in the news, and that's the medical marijuana.
Okay.
So where are we at on that? Because there's a lot of back and forth already.
That's a bit of a misnomer. We're not talking about medical marijuana. We're talking about medical cannabis. And and specifically, we're talking about in my mind, a rather benign oil.
Could I explain it, since you said I know more about it than most people, Matt?
I would love it if you did.
All right. Marijuana, the plant, has 70 cannabinoids on it.
Okay.
Okay. What they're making this medical oil from is from one of those cannabinoids. And there are some marijuana growing brothers in Colorado who grew this marijuana plant, and supposedly people don't get high on it. And somehow or other, some child was given it and supposedly had a miraculous cure or improvement in their seizure disorder.
And that's really the main medical condition that I read about, is that like seizure-related treatments.
Well, no, it's because other people have gotten on it, and the people who want legalization, it used to be called a group called Normal, and one of the leading people from the 80s has been down at the Capitol all the time and talking to the person that authored it. They want it for about 7 or 8 different. There's really no medical background that this helps. Even with that oil, there is no, it's all anecdotal about whether it helps the children
So
or
we're not talking about, like, for example, like drugs that are introduced that go through the the testing with the FDA and all that. We're not talking about anything that's happened with that, with the medical cannabis.
No, and what the problem is although Colorado's had a medical marijuana bill on its books since 2002, and they were supposed to set up rules for how the marijuana that goes into these products would be purified and checked. Marijuana, as it comes out and is grown, can have heavy metals residue, can have E. coli, which is very fatal if a patient gets it, and can lead to fatal. It can have bacteria on it, it can have pesticides residue. It can be a real problem. In fact, Colorado and Washington are sort of baby incubator states to see what happens. And in Washington, they just did a random sampling of all the marijuana that they're using out there, and 19% of the sample had heavy metals, bacteria, and so forth.
Well, here,
So
we're going to have to break for a commercial here, but what I want to do is, since we've all agreed to meet again after the session, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of stuff out there, a lot of discussion on that, and I think, Matt, like you said, I think the public's interest is really in transportation, especially with the traffic, and at least in Cobb County with the Braves coming. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that. So I want to thank you both for coming today, and as we said, extend an invitation to come at the end of the session, which, to remind the viewers, is 40 legislative days, not 40 calendar days. And so I look forward to hearing what happens in this session.
Thank you for having us. And just because I want to look at something carefully doesn't mean I'm against it. The public outcry has been great.
Let's see how this session goes. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of discussion about things, and just because it's being discussed doesn't necessarily mean that you're for or against it. Right. I mean, that's what it's all about, being down there to discuss it. So I look forward to having you join us at the end of the session. And so thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
The regular meeting of the Cobb County Commission will be Tuesday, February 10th at 9 a.m. and Tuesday, February 24th at 7 p.m. in the Cobb County Commission meeting room. The meetings are broadcast live here on TV 23 and are available for viewing on demand on the TV 23 website. Every Thursday in February, rain garden work days will be held at the Cobb County Water Quality Lab. That's from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. This activity showcases ways to transform a landscape into an urban or suburban sanctuary. It includes a brief site tour and basic training on how to install and maintain plants. For additional information or to register to attend, send an email to the registration office. On Tuesday, February 10th at 6:30 p.m. at the Cobb County Senior Wellness Center, a SunTrust Park Business Outreach event will be held. Businesses interested in being subcontractors on the Atlanta Braves SunTrust Park are invited to attend to get information on what is needed and how to apply. RSVP is required. Reservations can be made on the American Builders 2017 registration webpage. On Friday and Saturday, February 13th and 14th, and Sunday, February 15th, at the Mountain View Arts Alliance will present their coffee and dessert shows. The annual February Dinner Theater and Coffee Dessert production will benefit the Mountain View Arts Alliance and is produced by local playwright Raymond Fast. Tickets are $15 for the dessert coffee shows, $25 for the dinner theater. For additional information and tickets, go online to www.centerstagenorth.com.
Welcome back. And similar to what we did with the District 2 state representatives, we also extended invitations to both state senators that represent District 2. Unfortunately, Senator Judson Hill was unable to join us today due to scheduling conflicts. However, we do have Senator Hunter Hill with us, and I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bob.
Senator Hill is in his second term, and he is currently the vice chair of the caucus. He is also chair of the Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security Committee. He is the vice chair of the Senate Finance Committee, and he is on the Appropriation and Rules Committee, a member of the Judicial Non-Civil Committee, and also Retirement and Reapportionment and Redistricting Committees. So in the first segment, we discussed with the members from the representatives possible bills that would be coming up this year. And we also talked about how, with the fact that this is the first year in a 2-year cycle, any bill that did not get passed in 2014 has to start over.
That's right.
And it works the same in the Senate, is that correct?
It does.
So do you have anything that that didn't make the cut in 2014 that you'd like to see come back?
I did. I had an initiative on public-private partnerships. You know, as I've learned in studying the state budget, you know, our funds that are available for infrastructure development, you know, there's a lot of talk about transportation. They're going down, and we're spending more money on education and what I would call human costs, Medicaid, health care, and benefits and things. And so monies available for public infrastructure are going down, and so I had a bill that was going to be for creating more public-private partnerships and leveraging the capital and innovation of the private sector to deliver facilities of a public need, and I'll be putting that bill forth again. Now,
a huge public-private partnership here in Cobb County is the managed lanes.
Right.
That's, I believe it's like an $800 million plus project.
Absolutely.
It's going to go from the Chattahoochee River all the way up past the split in 75 and 575. So that's an example of public-private partnership.
Absolutely, and my bill, the bill that was allowed for that, which was transportation only, my bill will create those kinds of same opportunities for vertical construction.
Okay, so buildings and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this year, there's an increase in the budget of about $900 million. What do you see, or what would you like to see those monies used for?
Well, I'd like to see them prioritized towards transportation initiatives. But the reality is a lot of those monies are already accounted for in terms of, you know, for years we've been forced to cut education money, and we've put $500 million of that money into education. We did $500 million last year. We're doing $500 million again, and then there's the constant growth on the healthcare side with Medicaid growth. They call it the woodwork effect. Once people have the knowledge that they can have the healthcare opportunities, then the roles grow, if that makes sense. And so there's been added monies in that area as well.
Now, one of the things that folks watching may not know that's a little bit different than state representatives, the state representatives that were on the previous segment represent basically just Cobb County. Now, what's different with you and Judson Hill is that you actually represent both Cobb County and Fulton County.
Yeah.
So that, I would imagine that kind of makes things a little bit interesting when you have two different counties that you have to kind of deal with their issues.
It is interesting, but it's interesting in a beneficial way. You know, I'm on the Cobb delegation, obviously, and I'm also on the Fulton delegation, and you know, it's not like we're competing against each other, but I'm certainly proud to live in Cobb and live in your district, and but it's also good to be able to represent a portion of the city of Atlanta and a portion of Sandy Springs. Okay.
Now, is there any local legislation that you would expect or you anticipate coming out of the Senate?
Not right now. I mean, things can always pop up, and but right now there's no legislation that I'm aware of on the local side.
Okay. Now, what's the best way for viewers? You know, they know how to reach out to the district commissioners. You know, it's a little bit harder. What's the best way for the viewers to reach out to you?
Well, I hope they will. Email is always easy. hunter.hill@senate.ga.gov. You call our office as well. Let's see if I can remember my phone number. 404-463-2518.
And for the viewers, you know, it'll be on the screen.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we'll have both the email and the...
yeah, and double check my phone number. I want to make sure that's
well, yeah, we'll
right.
make sure we don't want them calling somebody else.
Yeah, but yeah, I encourage people to reach out to us because we are hungry for good ideas. We're a part-time legislature. We're only down at the Capitol from January through March, and
let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, people hear 40-day session,
right?
Okay, but if they look at a calendar, January through March is more than 40 days. So obviously, you're not there every single day. So why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about how that works?
Well, so a day only counts when we're gavelled into session and actually on the floor of the Senate or the House.
Is there a minimum amount of time for it to count as a day, or is it just gavel?
Oh, no, it's gavel in and gavel out. We could be in session only for an hour, and that counts as a day.
Okay.
But obviously, most of the time, the real work that we're doing down there is debating and perfecting legislation through the committee process. And like this whole week right now, we're in appropriations meetings. I'm on the Appropriations Committee, and we're talking about the state budget. Those don't count as legislative days.
Right, because you're actually not gavelled in when you're having a committee meeting.
Correct.
So there's actually a whole lot more that you do that people may not see if they're just watching when you're in session on the Senate floor.
Yeah, that's correct.
So when you're doing you're on about, I think 4 or 5 different committees here. Mm-hmm. Which one do you find to be the most difficult to work with? Is it appropriations?
That's a good question. Well, this is my first year on appropriations, and you deal with you mentioned an increase to the budget of $900 million. That's just state funds. We have an increase of about 1.5 or more billion when you include federal funds, and so state budget's about $21 billion, including federal monies. It goes all the way to $44 billion. And the reason I point that out is the appropriations is the whole kit and caboodle of why we're down there.
So it's both the state and the federal dollars.
Correct, and we have to allocate all of it. So that's a learning process for me currently. But the most interesting committee that I was on, 2 of them are Judiciary Non-Civil, which deals with all of our state's criminal laws, and then the Finance Committee, which is a passion of mine. I'm a low tax person, and that's the committee in which we vet tax bills for the state. So I like the Finance Committee.
Now, and we also mentioned in the beginning of the segment that you're the chair of the Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security Committee.
Yes.
West Point graduate.
Yes.
In the Army. How many years were you in the Army?
I was in 6.5 active and 8 total, and got to spend some time overseas as well. So. And
I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that now in Cobb County we have a Veterans Assistance Office, which there's how many? Do you remember how many veterans there are in the state?
There's about 700,000.
Yeah. So and I think in Cobb County it's about 55,000.
Yeah.
So it was definitely something that was needed.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with the audience today. And like we mentioned, Hunter can be reached either at his Capitol office or on his webpage, which if you look at the bottom of the screen, they'll be there. We hope that you and Judson and then the state reps can come back and join us once the session's over and kind of give a recap as to what happened.
I'd love to do that.
Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on 2 Talk.
Wednesday, February 18th from 7 until 8:30 p.m. in the Board of Commissioners meeting room, the Neighborhood Safety Commission will hold a panel discussion. This is one of a series of panel discussions sponsored and organized by the Safety Commission. The topic for this gathering is issues and opportunities around cultural diversity. The event is free and open to the public. No pre-registration is required. On Thursday, February 26th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Cobb County Water Quality Lab, a Water Stewardship Fair will be held. Watershed stewards from across the county will showcase their efforts to protect water in the area. Exhibitors must RSVP by February 10th. To register to attend, contact the Cobb Watershed Management Office. Keep in mind that the Cobb County Department of Transportation is working on a 5-part major transportation improvement project along Windy Hill Road. The project is in its early stages and will take approximately 2 years to complete. To view information on the project, go to the Cobb Department of Transportation website and click on the Windy Hill Road project link. Property tax exemptions are available to qualified property owners in Cobb County who are either senior citizens or veterans. To view a listing of the property tax exemption qualifications, go to the Cobb County Tax Commissioner's Tax Exemption webpage for information. New residents of Cobb County can get many of their questions on topics such as vehicle and voter registration, utilities, property taxes, and more answered by visiting the Cobb County Government's Newcomers webpage. To review the information available, go to the Cobb County Government homepage and search for new information.
Welcome home, man.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
But it would be safe to keep your distance until there's no secret that makes you smile. Reliable sources say that chicken soup has found their way out of this dangerous, but they are returned.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Mom, can I have $1? I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No. The upstairs closet?
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.